Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. How are you today? This is the Snobs podcast with your host, Mike Kimball, the Scene Snob himself. And if you aren't coming back and you're just joining in, check out the other shows. Let me know what you think. Sometimes I have a partner with me, and sometimes I don't. So, tonight I am partnerless again. Casey was unavailable. So, just jumping into it. So right now, I wanted to start off with this Game of Thrones cancellation. I know I talked about it on the last episode a little bit, and kind of speculated a bit on what might be going on for them to film a pilot and spend $30 million on the pilot, and then just to cancel it outright, especially with Game of Thrones being as huge as it was, to film the pilot for the prequel and then just, nix the whole thing. Well, new reports are coming out as of today that they are, for lack of a better phrase, the pilot or the whole series got shelved because it was too woke. Now, I think we all know now in this climate, in this time frame, that woke means that we are aware of what's going on around, socially what's going on around us, and that when we are woke, we are accepting and inclusive, and I think that's a great thing. There's nothing wrong with being inclusive and accepting everybody for who they are. I am firmly behind that. My only issue is when you shoehorn social issues into movies or shows to hit your audience over the head with it. To say, we're going to do this, whether it makes sense to the character development or these established timelines, this established world. If it doesn't make sense, it's still saying, but we're woke, right? And I just think that's been hurting storytelling for a long time. There's nothing wrong with being woke. There's nothing wrong with having a message in trying to make people aware, the audience is aware of what your message is, as long as it works fluidly within the story. And if you have this whole world like Game of Thrones did, some of the things that are coming out that they wanted to make, I think some of Ned Stark's ancestral characters in it, African American. They were going to make another, I forget which house they said, but an all lesbian house, and that's fine if it works for the story. I haven't seen the show, so I don't know if that works for the story. But if you're just putting it in there to seem inclusive, that you can't do that. You're not following the story, and you've established these audiences who very much, using the analogy of Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, people who are really into this world study it and know everything about it. And Game of Thrones is very similar for a lot of fans in that way, especially with the books and things like that. They wanted to change so much to be inclusive in this day and age that they were changing things about the characters, the story, the ancestry of the houses, things like that, just to be inclusive. So to me, that hurts storytelling. I don't care if you make up a new faction of it, a new house back in the past, and it can be all lesbians. I don't care. It could be all homosexuals, or it could be all one race. However you want to do it. That's not really inclusive then, but however you want to do it that works with the story is fine. I don't care how you include. It's just that don't take away from the story in this rich backstory that you've built up just to be inclusive. Just add to it. Add to the story. Make it better. I don't care. I don't care what's in it, who's in it. It's like James Bond when Idris Elba, and everybody wonders up in an roar over that. That's not inclusivity to me. He's a great actor. He's English, and he could pull it off. Why can't he do it? That's how you are inclusive, in my opinion, especially when it comes to storytelling. It doesn't damage the story in any way, shape, or form to have somebody like Idris Elba playing James Bond. it's still going to be a good story if you write a good story, or it's going to be a bad one if you write a bad one. Like, and another example is Ghostbusters, 2016 movie. When you have an all-female Ghostbusters cast, I didn't care that they were all female. That did not bother me. They are all funny women. I like all of their movies outside of Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters was a bad story. That was a poor story, and they tried to hit you over the head with the inclusivity that they were doing, while not being inclusive. You know, like they were placating to all the little girls out there, but none to the little boys. This is a girls' movie. This is for women. Their Instagram posts said as much. And I remember through all of that, I was like, well, I have sons, and they love Ghostbusters, and I don't care if they see female Ghostbusters up there. Granted, there is an all-male Ghostbusters movie, but, you know, when you're saying this one's for the girls, this one's for the girls, you're cutting out half your demographic there, and, you know, I don't understand it. Like, what's the point? Just be Ghostbusters. And make a better story, personally. Like, it was just not a good story. I'm sorry, it wasn't. There were funny things about it, and then there are some really poor things done in it. I don't think it was the women who were starring in the movie. I don't think that was their fault. I think it was the writing, and unfortunately, I think it was the directing as well in that one. But this brings me back to my point with like GOT. So, if you couldn't make it work in the world, like you had to change it so much that it seemed unrecognizable to fans that HBO pulled the plug. Now, that's a problem, and we need to step back. Like, deal with social issues, like similar to the way that Watchmen is. Watchmen's dealing with natural social issues that are going on in our world today in such an easy way, and it's not smacking you in the face with it. You know, just like the graphic novel didn't smack you in the face with it. It was just like, here's our story, this is what's going on in the world, we're telling it from a different point of view. Enjoy. And they did, and they're doing it, and it's killing it. Now I'm hearing a lot too, on the other side, when speaking about this inclusivity thing, that Terminator Dark Fate did not do well this weekend, and it's not even gonna break even, because now because it's too woke. To me, the question is it too woke, or is it just a tired franchise? Have we been hit over the head with Terminator so much? We have not really had a good Terminator movie since Terminator 2. And I personally prefer Terminator 1. I think Terminator 1 is the best one out of all. And I'm not against Terminator 2. I love Terminator 2. I will go back and rewatch it. I'll watch it whenever it's on. But if it wasn't made, I still would have been good. The Terminator is a great movie, and all around, and it kind of seals itself up at the end. So I'm cool with it. But with that being said, T2 was a great follow-up, but nothing since has been a good follow-up. I think we kid ourselves if we think that any of the Terminator movies have been a good follow-up. But I've been hearing a lot, you know, like in the Game of Thrones, with all the speculation and rumors going out about why it was canceled. I've been hearing about with Terminator Dark Fate that it failed because it was also too woke. It was all female and this and again, I don't care about that. I think it's a tired franchise. I think it's just we need to stop making one every 5 to 10 years, thinking this one's going to spark the next trilogy. You know, I was hopeful in Genesis because I was like, okay, they're going to go back to the beginning, kind of recast, redo it. It might be fun. Reboot it a little bit, but kind of hold on to the timeline a bit. And it failed. It failed in every conceivable sense, and I did not enjoy it. And, you know, even like Terminator Salvation, Terminator 3, it's just, can we give it a rest? Can we just let it go? I know they're trying to make it work, but now you're just wasting money, I think. And with Dark Fate, it's let's just give it a rest. Just end it for now. Maybe in another 10, 15 years or so, just refresh, start over, make it a horror movie. because that's what the first one was, and it worked. I don't need anything else. I don't need anything else out of that storyline. You changed it now. You force. I'm not even going to give the spoiler away. Just check it out if you want to check it out. But you changed it completely. And again, I'm not. That doesn't bother me. I don't care if there's, a new person who is going to lead the army. Lead the army of humans against the Terminators, the machines, I should say, Skynet. Well, not even Skynet anymore. So, I'm trying not to spoil this movie for you. So I think it's best that I just move on. But in my opinion, I have heard the question asked: did Dark Fate fail because it's too woke, or it's too tired? My guess is it's too tired. I would say that Game of Thrones was canceled because it was too woke, by everything I'm hearing. But it's smack you in the face woke. It's that type of woke that ruins the story. And if the story isn't good, or it's not going to appeal to the fans who love this for what it is, again, you can add anything into it. There was plenty in Game of Thrones that was woke, nobody had any problems with it. But if you're changing up the lore too much to appeal to everyone, it's going to fall. And that's what happened. It got canceled. And Dark Fate, even though I think it's just a tired franchise, some people are saying it failed because it's woke, and it's, but again, I think that one I think is a little different. I think that's the tired franchise personally. But, I did mention earlier that Watchmen is doing it. Watchmen is taking today's social stories and kind of turning them on their head and making a good story out of it. And that's what the Watchmen is. Let's face facts. Like, that's what the graphic novel was. That's what it was all about. I think that's why Doomsday Clock failed, looking into it, is because that's not what the Watchmen are. The Watchmen are a testament to the times and what could go wrong, if this were happening. And that's why I think the TV show is nailing it right now. They had episode 3, and it followed Silk Spectre 2, Lori Blake, who she's going by her father's name, the comedian's name, and she's an FBI agent now, and she's been brought in to do the investigating of everything going on in Tulsa. And Jean Smart plays the role of Lori Blake. She's older now. She's got a lot going on. Oh my God, this episode had so many cool Easter eggs in it. I was so happy for everything. They showed the owl, Who. So Who is watching the Watchmen. And they kind of give you a little bit of a tease to where Dan, the Night Owl, has been. He's in prison for vigilantism. They tease Dr. Manhattan a little bit, not fully a communication, but they do kind of communicate. And I thought that was very cool. They touched down on a comedian a little bit, like she kind of mentions her dad a little bit in it. And the whole episode revolves around a joke. She's telling a joke that kind of covers the whole episode. And I love the fact that each episode kind of has its own mini Black Freighter. Last episode, they had the American Hero story, which is the show within the show. This one, the joke is sort of the Black Freighter. It's the theme of what's going on in the show, in the episode. And they're just killing it with that. They're just doing such an amazing job, and I'm loving every second of it. So she goes on, she's assigned to go check things out in Tulsa. She brings a guy with her. There's a lot of awesome things in it. A very cool terrorist plot by the 7th Cavalry. Man, and Sister Night, Regina King just kills it, man. She's great, and she's terrific on this show. And I'm anxious to see how her character and Lori Blake's character they seem to be butting heads right now, but I feel like it's not gonna come to a head. I think it's gonna come to a partnership, and I'm anxious to see where that goes. But I may be wrong. You know, you never know. But the third episode was brilliant, and this show just keeps getting better and better. And Jeremy Irons is killing it as Ozymandias. And now we get a little bit more of a glimpse into his life and what's going on there, and how he's sort of in captivity. They haven't explained it too much, but you kind of get the idea that maybe he's in captivity, but you don't know what he's in captivity. Who has him in captivity? Is he in hell? Did Dr. Manhattan put him somewhere? Did somebody else put him somewhere? Like, you don't understand it because it doesn't seem like it, but it also seems like it seems strange in this episode because everything, like his technology in it, is very steampunk, and I kind of would have gotten that 30 years ago, but if he was living today, why wouldn't he have better technology available to him? But now you find out that he's in captivity. It's almost like he's in the 20s, and I'm anxious to see where it goes. So they're definitely keeping me guessing through these shows. Each week is just better and better, and I don't want it to end. Like, it gets to the end, and I'm like, come on! Like, it seemed like it happened so quick because it's so good, but it was a great episode, and I was really happy with it. So going back though to new things this week, I just saw today came out the trailers for Bad Boys for Life, the second trailer, and Ip Man 4. Now let me go over Bad Boys for Life. This is an unnecessary movie in my opinion. I liked the second one a lot. I think I like the second one the same as the first one. Like, I love the first Bad Boys when it came out, and that's a go-to for me. I really enjoyed that movie. It doesn't hold up. It's a 90s movie, but it holds up in a way that, like, I can watch The Rock over and over again. Like, I can watch Bad Boys or Armageddon or something. Yeah, it's dated, but it's really good. Second one was a little bigger, but I enjoyed it. I really did. I didn't mind that it was bigger. I mean, it's Michael Bay. He's, at that point in his career, he was a little bit bigger. He was doing bigger things, so I kind of get it. Go bigger, you got more money, do it. I didn't love the ending in Cuba, but I didn't hate it either. I was like, it is what it is. It's a Bad Boys movie. But I dug it. But this one, what is this? It's got to be like 15 years removed? Maybe more? I don't even know when the second one came out. I can't remember. But seriously, it's so long removed that I don't need, like, they're older now, and they're playing that up too, because it seems like now they're going to be put in charge of this group of young, not really cadets, young police officers who are detectives or whatever else, but so I'm anxious. I'm gonna go see it. I'm definitely gonna go see it, but maybe not anxious isn't the right word, but so they're going into this new group of younger people. And Vanessa Hudgens is in there. I didn't really see who else. So I think it's kind of like passing the baton, but somebody's out to kill Mike Lowry. So it's like the one last ride for the both of them. Like, Martin Lawrence's character wants to retire, and Will Smith's character, of course, is like, no, I'll do this for the rest of my life. But somebody's out to kill him now, so they got to go on like one last ride, and we'll see what happens. Like, their new group is a bunch of kids, so I have a feeling they're going to be doing the heavy lifting on the action, especially the hand-to-hand stuff. But I don't know. Will Smith just made Gemini, man. And that looks like he did most of the heavy lifting on that, playing a dual role. So I'm sure he's fine. I'm sure he can do it. But I guess we'll see. I don't care as much anymore. Like, I just feel like when you make sequels and you revisit this stuff, it's just kind of unnecessary. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's good. I hope it does well. But I don't need it. But and then we got Ip Man 4, just a teaser. Um, I don't know about any of you out there. I'm sure there are because it wouldn't make 4 if there wasn't a popularity. But the Ip Man movies are great. Donnie Yen is great. They've been fantastic all the way through. You know, even when he fought Mike Tyson in the second one, it took place in like the 30s. Not even. I think it took place in the 60s. But you know, um, it was great. I loved everything about all of them. That, you know, the story has just been great. So I want to kind of see where it goes. It seems like he doesn't age through it, but it seems like this one's probably going to take place more in the 80s, maybe the 70s, and it looks like it's going to take place on a military base, like the fight. Scott Adkins is in it. For anybody who doesn't know, Scott Adkins, great martial artist, actor. He's been in a ton of stuff. You should look him up. So I'm anxious to see. At least it's not like, even though I love the scene, it's not like Mike Tyson fighting Donnie Yen, and it was Mike Tyson. Like, this may have taken place in the 60s, but it was Mike Tyson in that role. He wasn't doing any acting. It was just Mike Tyson, by another name. And then he fought Donnie Yen. But that was cool. I enjoyed it, you know. So this one looks pretty cool. Looks like he's going to fight. The big fight is going to be between him and Scott Adkins. So I'm anxious to see where it goes with that. So, you know, we'll see what else and where else it goes. I can't wait for a longer trailer to kind of see what's what. Another thing we got this past week, Halloween Kills wrapped. That's the sequel to Halloween. Super excited. I cannot wait. Halloween 2 to me was like, for me, for a long time, was the best sequel to a movie. Like, it just picks up right where it leaves off. It's great horror. You got everyone back for it, except for Carpenter, of course. And it just kind of rolls right in, and like, it's exciting, the whole thing. But when they came out with Halloween last year, I was like, all right, I'm in. I saw it and I was like, this is great too. This is another great, kind of spawning timeline off of Halloween. They got rid of the sister deal, which I was cool with, and they went their own route, and I loved everything they did with it. This David Gordon Green did a great job. Danny McBride, and I forget who the other writer was on it, but I mean, they wrote a great script. I don't think Danny McBride wrote the sequels. I have to see, because there's 2 sequels that are going to be coming out. It's Halloween Kills is the next movie, which continues after Halloween, of course, and then Halloween Ends. They haven't started filming that yet, though. So I'm anxious to see what happens, and definitely want to see where it goes. By the footage they showed, and by the casting announcements and the stills that I've seen, so it looks like it's going to pick up pretty much right where Halloween left off, the new Halloween from 2018. And Laurie is going to be injured because she got injured at the end, of course. And then, they'll be doing the hospital. Now, I don't know if it's going to take place a year later, or how they're all going to do it, or if it's just going to spawn off for the next few days, or how this works. I am excited to see where it goes, though. They got pretty much everyone back. They got the girl who played Lindsay in the first one back. They got, the names are eluding me. I should have written them down. But the Nurse Marion from the original, who was driving with Dr. Loomis in the beginning, and she got attacked in the car. So they're back, and she did come back for Halloween H2O, though. She was the nurse that got killed in the beginning. She was Loomis's nurse, so it was cool to see her come back and see that she came back for this. They got Charles Cyphers to come back. He was Sheriff Brackett in the original, so I'm anxious to see what they do here with him. But they recast with Anthony Michael Hall, who's a great actor, so I'm cool with it. Tommy Doyle, only because the guy who played Tommy Doyle is not an actor, and I don't blame him for not wanting to come back. So recast him, sure. Everybody else is still acting, so or kept acting through, so keep it going. That's great. But there is a sinister looking shot. It's a behind the scenes shot, but it looks like a shot of them filming a scene with Anthony Michael Hall's character, where he's got kind of like, it looks like a bat in his hand. He's got a sinister look on his face walking in front of a car. So I'm anxious to see where they go with Tommy Doyle. It should be interesting. Speculating, maybe he grew up to be like PTSD'd out too. Like, even though he wasn't fully attacked, that's still traumatizing for a child. Then they're bringing both of them back, so we'll see what happens. But I am excited to see what they do with their characters. Lindsay and Tommy coming back, because where were they for the first one? Why weren't they in Halloween? So that will be an interesting story to tell too. Like, is everybody catching wind that Michael Myers is back and they're all coming out of the woodworks to help? That could be a cool thing they got going on there. I don't know. I'm sure they're going to do a good job with it. They did a great job with Halloween. They paid homage nicely. Carpenter is back to do the music for both these movies. Love it. He's bringing back for everything. He should have come back doing music for all his movies, but all his remade movies, But that just shows to show me, like the people who redid The Fog or Assault on Precinct 13 or hell, they redid everything basically. They weren't. They didn't go back and get John Carpenter or really, he got paid, so I'm sure he was happy. Either way, his name's on all of them, so he gets paid when they remake them. But, at the same time, it's at least for Halloween, they came back and were like, can you do the music for it? Can you be a part of this, please? And he is, and I'm excited. And it seemed to have sparked, because there was a little bit of a spark out there last year. Him saying he thinks he has one more movie in him. Please come back. A lot of people didn't like The Ward. The Ward was fine. It wasn't one of his best works, but I also think that was at a time where he didn't, sometimes he seems like he cares, sometimes he doesn't. And I think that was at a point in his career where he just kind of didn't. So, I think he does care now. I think he wants to try it. He wants to end on a great note. Do it. Come back for another escape movie. I'll take Kurt Russell all day long. Snake Plissken. I don't care how old he is. That's my favorite movie of his of all time. Like, my favorite horror movie is The Thing and Halloween Tide. But my favorite John Carpenter movie of all time is Escape from New York. So, make anything at this point. Just do it up, please. I beg you. Do something awesome. Do something horror. It will be great. But we have a lot of good stuff going on. But this weekend, I did want to kind of get into my weekend. I had a very awesome weekend here in Winchester, Virginia. The Scene Snob went out and he visited Full Metal Modine weekend. Yep, that's right. The Alamo Draft House here in Winchester, Virginia, the same one that I went to Joe Bob in a mere 20 days ago, had Matthew Modine in-house all weekend. And it was awesome. They were showing 9 of his movies. He was doing Q&As. He would introduce the films and then do Q&As after. One of the nicest human beings I've ever met. And that's not just actors. I'm not saying one of the nicest actors or filmmakers or me. I worked in the film industry for a long time, so I've met a lot of them. He was one of the nicest people in general I've ever met. Talk to you, sign anything you wanted. Like, my brother and I went to go see Full Metal Jacket on Friday night, and now the Friday night movies were Married to the Mob, which I couldn't make it to then, and Full Metal Jacket, and then kind of overlapping with that was Vision Quest, the Psycho Cinema show Vision Quest. I love Vision Quest. That's one of my favorite movies. I wanted to go see Vision Quest. I would have went to see Vision Quest over Full Metal Jacket, but my brother and I, that's our movie. We wore that DVD out when he got back from boot. And, he's a Marine, and Full Metal Jacket holds a near dear place in his heart. And, that was the movie we kind of bonded over. Even when he got back from Iraq and stuff, we watched that movie, that was our go-to movie. And so when it was showing on the big screen and Matthew Modine is there, he was like, I bought the tickets. I was like, hey, we got to go to this. He was in. He was like ready to go. So we went that Friday night. We met Matthew Modine before. He got his Marine cover signed. So he got his hat signed, and Arlie Ermy had signed it years ago when he was in the Marines, and he had met him at Quantico. And so Matthew Modine saw that and was telling stories about him, and it was a really touching time for me, just to be with my brother, to do that and kind of experience. And Matthew Modine was very cool about it, thanked him for his service, and just really it was a fun, exciting time. And afterwards with the Q&A, I got to ask a question, and that was cool because listening to his stories, he's a very good storyteller. And he's a director now too. So, and I think he was telling us about his kids, and his kids are directors too. They're in the industry, and I can see it. He's a very good storyteller. And with that being said, like, because the next night, if you listen to A Marriage Like That podcast, we go a little more in depth about it. But the next night, my wife had 2 tickets. My wife got tickets to And the Band Played On, Pacific Heights, and then Memphis Belle for her and her parents. Well, And the Band Played On I had never seen. She had brought me to it, and we went and saw it together. We had like a double feature date night, which was pretty cool. Never really get to go out with the kids, as much as we love them, and we do need date nights every once in a while. But yeah, we saw And the Band Played On, and I never really knew what it was. I never saw it, and man, it was a touching movie. It was a beautiful movie. It was an HBO movie. It was cool to hear that HBO actually, not only did they okay it to be shown, they required that it be a free showing, and that they sent a special version that could play here at the Alamo Draft House. Man, that was awesome. That was a beautiful thing. It was really cool they did it, and he was very cool afterwards. The Q&A, like he talked to somebody who's had AIDS since they were a child was there, and they came up and spoke, and he was very sweet to him and things like that. And it was like I said, it was a beautiful story, and there was a couple of touching things that went on at that time. But seeing that movie and then hearing those stories and hearing Matthew Modine talk about it and what that movie meant to him and how that could have been a career killer for him, but he took it anyway because he knew it was important, because his agent had pushed him to do it, and said, like, this could be, I'm hesitant to put you in it, but I think you'd be great in it. And he did it, and it was a touching personal thing for him. Well, later that night, we did go see Pacific Heights, which I have seen. My wife didn't see. And if you want our reviews on the movies, we do them on Marriage Like That podcast, so check that out. But we went and saw Pacific Heights, which I don't think she understood going in, because she's not a big horror movie fan. But and it's not a horror movie; it's a thriller. It's to me, it's one of those awesome '90s thrillers. It's 1990 it came out, but it's like the late 80s and 90s just had some cool thrillers, man. They really knew how to make a thriller. I think the last really good thriller I've seen that was a thriller didn't need like a ton of action to like kind of balance it out or anything like that, like they do today. Like most of the thrillers today have this like ton of action in them. Like was Fractured. That was the Ryan Gosling, Anthony Hopkins movie. That's a great movie, and actually that's my week this week's recommendation. It is a great movie. If you have not seen Fractured, go check it out. It's about a wealthy architect who is a genius, and he kills his wife and gets away with it because he plans everything out miraculously. Not miraculously, meticulously is what I'm looking for. And he like kind of takes the lawyer that he hires, which is Ryan Gosling, who's like gets everybody off. He takes him for the, he plays him basically, and so now he's desperate to come back and catch this guy, and there's no way to catch him. Like he's thought everything through. Until the end, there's a great twist. It's a good thriller. It's solid. I highly recommend checking that movie out if you haven't seen it already. I think it came out in, I want to say 2006, 2007, but check it out if you haven't. It's terrific. But I digress. Going back to my Modine weekend. Yeah, so we saw Pacific Heights, another great thriller in my opinion. Modine and Melanie Griffith play a couple. They're not a married couple, but they're a couple that are living together now. They just bought a house, and there's 2 units downstairs they're planning on renting out. Well, Michael Keaton plays one of the tenants that moves in, but he's like the tenant from hell, and doesn't pay him, but he's got everything planned out, so that way they look like the villains of the story. So that way they're stuck. They can't. They're not going to be able to get him out. It's amazing. It's a terrific movie, great thriller, awesome twist in the end. Michael Keaton plays a terrific villain in it. But Modine, I wanted to say, I think I realized this weekend, Matthew Modine is the actor that I think everybody's just pleasantly surprised to see. When you see him pop up in a movie, like when I saw him pop up in Stranger Things, I'm like, oh, Matthew Modine, that's awesome. I remember when I saw him, I'm like, oh, he's playing a villain? Like, I mean, it doesn't really make sense. He never really plays the villain, so like it was cool to see him as that. But and he's a great actor, so he pulls it off. But I'm just watching it. I'm like, he's the guy that shows up in a movie. Like you don't know that he's in it or something like that. Like with kind of along the lines of what I meant with Stranger Things. I didn't really realize he was in it until I watched it, and it was just like a pleasant surprise. And every time I see him pop up in something, it's just always been a pleasant surprise. Like, oh, Matthew Modine, that's awesome. And I realized that this weekend watching him, I'm like, he is one of those actors, and he's been in a lot of stuff. He's starred in a lot of stuff, and like I think people tend to forget that. Like, but he's still as solid today, and I'll watch anything he's in, especially now after meeting him. It was just terrific. It was a great time. Thanks to Alamo Drafthouse for putting that on, and the Alamo Drafthouse Film Club, Andy runs. Still Awesome, which is in the Mouth of Darkness podcast. They run that, and of course, Faye over at Psycho Cinema. They did a great job planning this weekend out. It was fun and fantastic. So I can't wait to see what else they have in store for the future. But that was basically my weekend, and kind of just wrapping up here and like everything else. Not much else happening that I can see, but I am excited to check out the. There's a bunch of new trailers supposedly coming out soon, so keep those in mind. Also, keep a lookout on social media. I have some new news stuff coming out, and to check out our other shows. We have the 20-Minute Wrestling Podcast, which come out on Mondays. Marriage Just Like That, which is usually Fridays, but we saved it for this past Monday to talk about our date night. So you can check this show and the rest of those out, and all our old shows out on thescenesnobs.com. And follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm at the Scene Snob, and on YouTube it's the Scene Snobs channel. Have all our videos up there, and of course we have the Scene Snobs page on Facebook. So like, follow, subscribe, the whole 9 yards, and leave feedback. I want to hear more about what you think about everything I talked about. And like I said, I want to be woke. I want to, so like come back to me and tell me what you think, and I'm always down to listen. It's not that I don't stick to my convictions, but I am definitely up for a good argument, and to hear what other people think, because it might change my mind, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So with that being said, I'm going to end off the show tonight and just wish you all a good night, and thanks for listening.